a moment, jot down this phone number, 919-924-0463. That's my number. Or you can send me an email at Leslie, Lesli, at foundationscoachingnc.com. That's FOUNDATIONS, coaching, N as in Nancy, C as in Charlie.com, and take advantage of my free, no obligation, Create Your Happily Ever After Marriage Strategy session. Because as we're talking about today, these are simple and relatively easy, although sometimes looking in somebody's eyes isn't always as easy as we make it sound. But these are very simple ways that you can reconnect, stay connected with your partner, and that's really going to help you ride out the tough times that all marriages have. And so now I want to get back to talking with Leah about these three things. And, I love number 2 because you mentioned the importance of touch in this piece, as well as another one you just wrote called If You Give Your Husband a Kiss. I love that one, so people go read it. Why do we stop touching each other, and what happens when we start again?
Well, okay, so one of my favorite stories is that when my husband and I, the first time my husband and I kissed, I remember texting my sister and saying to her, I'm going to have to buy stock and chapstick because, I just have no desire to not kiss this man. He's so wonderful. And so,
right.
But, we don't get to kiss like that anymore. We have 4 kids and a business and 23 chickens and a partridge in a pear tree. So, we don't get to do that anymore. And so, it's easy to stop because, again, life, and as moms with little kids, if that's your reality, that's my reality. We feel there's a lot of that reality of we are tired, sleep deprivation and tapped out, touched out kind of feeling.
Right, which can be a lot for moms when they have small kids. It's okay, I don't want anybody touching me.
Absolutely, yes, because you just get to a point at the end of the day, and I said before, when we were first talking, a lot of people just assign the love language of physical touch to men because they think, physical touch is sex, that's men, and I can't, that's the box I have it in. I can tell you that my love language is physical touch, and and even with that, I can get touched out in a day by the tapping, the mom, mom kind of touching, as opposed to the connective touching of putting his hand on my arm, or holding hands, or just sleeping in proximity on the bed where our legs, our feet are touching, instead of each on our own pillows, kind of on our own side. And what restorative quality that has, because it's not just the physical touch, covers this whole multitude of anything. It's because that physical proximity reminds us that we have emotional proximity. It's because that, again, that vulnerability in kissing and touching grows vulnerability in our emotions and in our thoughts. And if I could trust him to care for me, in that, I can grow trust in that. I can grow trust in how I think about these things or how I feel about these things, and share those with him too.
And I love the distinction between types of touch, and I think that this is one of the challenges in relationships, is that, sometimes we're being touched. There's nothing quite like a little kid wrapping their arms around your neck, saying, "I love you, mommy." That's
right. That's $1 million right there.
Right.
That's
that can carry for a long time, but that's not always the way our kids touch us. Sometimes they're grabbing us. Sometimes, when my daughter was little, she used to grab my hair, and then I would just hold her hair, and I said, "I'll let go of yours when you let go of mine." I wasn't pulling her hair, but it was just okay, this hurts. Stop. This is not a pleasant touch. Or they pinch you, or or slap at you, or whatever. That's all touch, just not necessarily great touch. And then there's also touch that is meant to be sexual or that kind of intimate, as opposed to the intimate touch of just, when I walk by my husband, I just touch him on the shoulder, or he pats me on the back, or what, just that gentle kind of connecting touch. And I think people can get really confused about what type of touch it is, which is why I always tell people you have to touch each other in different ways, that sometimes it's appropriate for sexual touch, but if the only time that somebody ever gets touched is when the other person wants to be physically intimate, then you could end up with this distancing, because that's not really necessarily connecting touch. It can be, but not always. Does that make any sense?
Oh, I mean, totally. Yeah. It's, again, like, it's one of those things that, like, when you are completely rested and your capacity levels are all, like, in a good spot, it's easy to know that. Like, it's easy to know that. But when you're, tapped out and touched out and emotionally or mentally kind of drained, that restorative touch of, like, I'm here with you kind of touch. Like, we're doing this together kind of touch, as opposed to, like, I want something from you kind of touch. Then it makes a huge difference in building that connection between the two people.
Right, and it's really interesting because I was also talking just the other day to somebody, and I don't know where this statistic came from, but if it's true, we're all in a lot of trouble, because what she was saying is that because the way human beings are designed, we're designed to be hugged like 10 times a day. That's what our kind of our soul needs. I'm going, oh boy, is that not happening?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I've heard that too. I don't know where I heard that, but I've heard that too.
Okay,
and
so
I love being hugged. So yeah.
Well, I do too. And it's funny because even when my son was younger, I would tell him, it's like, you either hug me at home or I will hug you out in public. But I will hug you. I'm just giving you the option of when you do it. So, and he goes, oh,
when you would like your choice on the when.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, you get the when, but he goes, okay, fine. But it's that same kind of thing, because I was hiking with a friend yesterday, and we were stepping over this I don't even want to call it a stream because it wasn't even that big, but we had to step over something, and he just automatically turned around to give me his hand to help me over. I mean, it's that kind of touch, I think, that you're talking about, right? Kind of does that. Yeah, and even as you say that, I'm like, I have two choices of how to react to that touch, right? Mm-hmm. I can say, like, I don't need your help, or I can say, like, he has my best interests at heart, and he cares about whether I slip off this rock or not. Exactly. Oh, and that, yes, and how we interpret it is so profound. And I think that when we continue to do it in our relationships, we maintain, as you said before, that this is somebody who has my best interest at heart, who cares about me, who's letting me know we're in this together. And so I think that's a really critical part. And the last behavior that you talk about is to be thoughtful. And this seems so obvious to me, but it's often the first thing to go. So, again, this is one of those duh kind of moments for me, but a lot of people, I think, lose it. And so why is it so important to be thoughtful for a successful marriage?
I think it's that it's like a right in your face recognition of we're in this together. I am the person who loves you more than anyone else in the world, and I want what's best for you, and and that grows us together. And that's from both sides. And can I be honest, the article that you're talking about, the 3 things that you're forgetting, most of the things that I thought of for this are things that my husband does for me. Like, I don't always remember to be thoughtful. Just in I remember, like, I'm gonna go take a nap right now because I didn't get to sleep last night. That doesn't leave me extra time to, like, leave a note somewhere or to set up this thing or whatever. So my husband has really, like, shown me, like, there's just little ways that I can be thoughtful along the way, and it does seem so easy, and yet like you said, it's so easy for it to be one of the things that falls off, because when you at least in my house, when you kind of crack into that, like, here's the things we need to get done, you kind of trim the stuff that doesn't feel like it moves you forward, but that's the stuff that, like, I always say it like this, like, you can build a wall with rocks, if you want to, with just rocks. Mm-hmm. They're there. The wall will be there, but the wall will not be strong. The wall will not stand. You either need to do something to those rocks, like notch them together, or you need to put mortar in between them. Mm-hmm. And the being thoughtful is the putting mortar in between them. We don't feel like we have time when we build the wall to mix the mortar and do up the whole thing, but if we don't do that, our wall's not going to be as strong. What we're building our life together is not going to be as strong.
And I love that analogy and that visual because people are always asking me, well, what does it take? And like I was talking about the don't sweat the small stuff. It's like there are some things that really are very small. I mean, because the grand gestures are wonderful, but it is the day-to-day making the time to stop and speak gently to each other. And because it's the 5 positives to balance out a negative, all the happiness studies. And that's how powerful a negative is. And sometimes it's not necessarily that we're mean to each other. It's just, I think, that we're not being thoughtful and we're not stopping. And it's one of those things where it would never occur to me to be in the same room with my husband and then for me to get up and maybe go to the kitchen to get a glass of water or a cookie or whatever without asking him, can I get you something? And same thing for him. I mean, it's one of those things that it just doesn't even occur to us not to ask each other. And on occasion I've had to, a while back, I had to ask him because he would go to bed but not tell me he was going to bed. And suddenly it's like, where did he go? And then I'd go upstairs and he'd be in bed. And it's like, could you just let me know that you're going upstairs? It's like, it's not, it's just kind of, to me, that's just thoughtful. It's like, wait, where'd my husband go?
And can I say that's a big one is like sometimes I don't even know that, like, we don't even mean to not be thoughtful. And sometimes we don't even know that we're not being thoughtful. Like sometimes some people are like, oh, my husband does that. He will go like outside to like start working on the garden. Uh-huh. And I'll be like, where did he go? Where did he go?
Yeah.
And I'll be like, what is going on? And then like an hour later I'll come in the house. I'm like, where were you? He'll be like, I was outside. Okay. Just, I'm not, like, I don't want to babysit your time. I just wanted to know where you were. Like, in case, like, I needed you for something or whatever, or, I could come out and help you or whatever. And I think that's maybe the difference between, like, 7 years of marriage, 31 years of marriage, people who just got married. Those are conversations that, like, you're going to have along the way as you grow and as you change as people. Like, hey, this is a way that, like, I didn't even know that it bothered me that you think about this differently. Hey, could we talk about this? Because you think about it differently, but to me it says thoughtful or not thoughtful.
Well, and
some things like the garden thing, I just need to get over.
I mean, I do think that's important because what I might find thoughtful, my partner might find annoying, or vice versa. And it's like, okay, yeah, you don't really need. That's not necessary. And so I think that's a communication thing because we are different. It goes back to what you were talking about earlier about the love languages. I mean, we are different human beings. We have different experiences. We have different desires, and being able to share them. So okay, it's. I mean, I still have – this is one of those things that I just have never been able to break my husband of the habit because we got together long before there were cell phones. So so one of my things is, I want to know where people – if you're not going to be where you said you were going to be at the time you said you were going to be there, can you just call me and let me know? It's like I don't necessarily really care where you are up to a point, but if you're going to be late or something, just let me know. And, because his thing is, well, I know I'm okay. I'm going, great. I know you're okay. I don't know you're okay.
I don't know that. I don't have that same information.
Yeah, I've actually called the state patrol on him twice, eons ago, back before cell phones, because we lived in a place where it snowed and he was gone. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he slid off the road, And they're going, no, ma'am, there's no accident. Like, okay.
No, ma'am, that did not happen. Yeah.
And that's just one of those things. And so I think it's like anything else, we need to share that information with each other. But, and I think it goes back to something that you said, which was so important about that this is an important relationship, and what do we need to do to keep it